I'm going to bring up, let's see. Yeah, this part of the paper here specifically, and I might just put a better version of it in the final cut here. But for now, for me and you, basically your conclusion. I mean, it's a long paper, and it is still available online, right? You said that y'all had pulled it
Yeah,
down, but
yeah,
you
yeah,
put it
yeah.
back
No, we
up,
took it
and
down for a
okay.
couple hours. It's back up on ResearchGate. I can send you a link to it if you want to put that in there.
Oh, I
Um,
definitely will, and I'll be showing different parts of the paper throughout
cool.
the
And yeah, you're
interview.
right. It's long. It's 40, almost 40,000 words. It's like a book length
It's
article.
crazy. It's
Something
crazy.
like 50 footnotes. Each one of
That's
those
what
in
I was gonna
itself.
say. Is
Yeah.
like yeah, half the paper is like just y'all's, I guess, whatever you call it, references,
Well, kind of, yeah. Just
citations.
ways we wanted to expand on some of the things within the paper that we couldn't do in the paper because we needed people to be able to read it, get
Yeah,
the holistic idea that Tim, our first author, did a great job tying together in a way that flows and makes sense and shows all the little nuances. But if people want
totally.
more information about any or all of these things, they can go to the end notes and there's separate sections that go into more detail.
Yeah, no, it's the paper is beyond what the headline is, and that's what's great about it. So it really is the most looked at paper on ResearchGate probably ever.
I would be willing to place $100 bet with someone that, and
Or at least in the top, regardless. Like,
in this
right, like,
period of time, I would say undoubtedly over the course of a paper's lifetime, maybe not. I don't know. I
sure.
can't say, but in a
Well, of course.
4 day period, I don't see how
Well,
there could be. And I'm not saying that to like brag or anything because we didn't expect any of this. It's very much the opposite. I'm humbled by how seriously people are taking this and how many people are going to read the paper itself. It's really great to see. I'm saying this as a
yeah,
we're very excited about the response
the
and that people
response.
are considering this.
No, I look, I cover this topic every single day. Okay. I do not miss a day. Like, that's my thing. And when I get a message from people in my universe who have nothing to do with this topic about something, I know it hit another level, right? And
Yeah.
I was getting messages from people. Hey, dude, did you see this thing about this paper? As I saw in the news. So your story, this thing got out there. It got to people who
It got
don't
out. It
look into
still
this.
is. It's
Yeah,
still
it's
spreading
crazy.
its fingers out across the world right now.
No, it's awesome.
India. Apparently, it went absolutely ape shit in India. Just
Really,
across
they
the
were like,
media. Yeah.
oh yeah, well, it's phenomenal. I mean, look, let's the conclusion here that you write. I also found this part to be interesting, because I think some people, if there was any criticism, this sort of helps, fight that a little bit, right? This paper has made the case for taking seriously the cryptoterrestrial hypothesis as a potential explanation for UAP, while noting that it probably ranks lower than other hypotheses, such as the extraterrestrial explanation. And I think that's because right here you say, although such calculations are hard to quantify, I think that's an important
Yeah.
part of this paper, to be honest with you, because you're just theorizing. These are potentials, right? There's this, there's that. We're speculating here, we're theorizing, and this is why we're theorizing.
Yeah.
Um,
And just real quick, prior to this one, Tim, the first author, had published one about the ultra terrestrial model and the extraterrestrial model. And that's sort of what the process, as it was envisioned by him, is that there would be papers about each of these main theories that we would put in the form of academic publications to reach a different audience that normally doesn't have access to this information or wouldn't see these things. So this
sure.
one, I'm happy it did get broad attention because it does tie together a lot of these things and discusses these other theories, even though he already did specific papers on some of the other main theories prior to this one.
Oh, that's good context. Absolutely. See, and that's what these longer conversations are good for,
Mm-hmm.
to explain some of this. Look, just to kind of break this down, right? I love how this is just put very simply for people as well, right? Because you can dive in further into this, if you want to. But you basically, I mean, I guess maybe help us here. Can you see that? Can you see the screen here where it's like given number
Yeah,
one,
no,
right? You guys break it
I
down in
know the part you're
fours, right?
talking about. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So the first one is just human crypto terrestrials, right? You say a technologically advanced ancient human civilization that was largely destroyed long ago, example by flood, but continued to exist in remnant form, right? So you're saying this is one of the four possibilities of
Yeah, and I
this,
would
right?
argue one of the ones that's most associated with this idea, sort of the breakaway
Correct.
civilization,
That's
the
all I
Silurian
thought it was.
hypothesis.
I didn't know about these other three, which we're going to get
Yeah.
into. That's what was cool about
And a
this
lot of
paper for
these
me.
are somewhat tied together. Like for instance, number three, as I advocated for in a talk I gave in Phoenix 2 years ago, I think May 2021, perhaps might have been no 2023. It was just last year. Good lord. Is that one of the ways you might have an advanced breakaway civilization because societies evolved from simple to complex and anthropology 101 lectures, I guess you'd say, we talk about sort of the evolution of culture and how it's compounding. It always builds on what came before. So you could have a scenario where, as per situation number three, you could have an extraterrestrial civilization come here in the past with advanced technology. Something happens, they dwindle, they go into hiding. Or one way you get around that simple to complex order is if you have a complex society who maybe a human society from our future is able to jump over into the past and therefore take that advanced complex civilization and the accoutrements of their culture with them, set up shop. Maybe this could give rise to the Atlantis lore and other advanced beings who then stay here. They look enough like us. Maybe they hybridize across time to look like us. And then you could have that walking amongst us situation too. So a lot of these, even number four, likely plays into that. So we list them as sort of individual possibilities, but there is also a lot of overlap among them.
No, great point. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. So number two, separately, right, just on its own, is hominid or theropod. Am I saying that right? Theropod crypto terrestrials, a technologically advanced non-human civilization consisting of some terrestrial animal which evolved to live in stealth, example underground, perhaps a hominid, or alternatively a species much more distantly related to us, descendants of unknown intelligent dinosaurs. This stuck out to me.
It stuck
For
out to a lot of
sure.
people, as it
Yeah.
turns out. Yeah.
This is the new
Folks,
Jurassic World movie plot
right.
coming out
Yeah,
next.
I
How
know.
cool would that be?
Yeah. No, that one definitely got some attention as well. And it was easy for people to sort of latch onto and you know, I've seen a lot of cheeky images of
Oh yeah,
dinosaurs, you know, with
of course.
VR headsets on and things like that. Um
Oh gosh,
yeah,
that's
so
funny.
this one again might tie into some of the others too. And instead of a
Sure.
breakaway civilization from the human past, we might go back farther. I remember having a conversation with my brother-in-law a few years ago where he was talking about, well, what if dragons, these stories of dragons were real and it was just an advanced form of dinosaurs that kind of went on. And I was like, you know, it's good to be open-minded and think about these things. So it's trying to include everything we can think of and
100%.
everything other people have thought of too, that we can wrap into these succinct four lines that
Sure.
allow us to frame the debate. So yeah, you know, each of these, we gave the whole idea, the 1 out of 10 probability, as you mentioned, that's very subjective. We acknowledge that as well, but some of them we would rank higher or lower than others. So the aggregate
Sure.
score is 10%, but we did want to include everything, but we don't necessarily think that advanced dinosaurs went on to, you know, have a 65 million year technologically advanced evolution, and we don't see them. You know, that one kind of ranks a little lower just because anytime you get a civilization that is building megalithic structures, public works projects, skyscrapers, they tend to stick out. They tend to be seen in the geologic and archaeological
Yeah.
record.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, no, I agree. It's just something I'd never thought of, right? So that's why it's jarring. It's like, oh wow, what? Wait a second. But I mean, who knows, right? Reptilian aliens that they talk about, why couldn't those be evolved from dinosaurs? I don't know. I mean,
And they had
chickens
longer to
are.
do it. Yeah, they had longer
Yeah,
to do it too. They had 65 million years. So they
yeah,
absolutely could have gotten to a point where we seem too primitive that we're not even worth interacting. Like when I talk to my fish in the fish tank, or we look at ants running around and we want to have tea with them and talk about nuclear physics. So that could be that we just haven't reached that point where we're worthy of their consideration. Again, we're just trying to get everything on the table to have a conversation, and that
100%.
is it's a possibility.
I think it's fascinating to think about, to be honest with you. I find that absolutely fascinating. And not just, I mean, you mentioned here a terrestrial, it could be other animals, right, that have done this.
Right, right. And
So,
primates as well.
yeah, other
Yeah.
primates that have, yeah, exactly. Bigfoot. I mean, what if that's from an ancient, I mean, yeah, look, I'm with you here. Okay, number 3 is definitely enticing to me as a concept for sure, and I think a lot of people, you touched on it briefly, which is former extraterrestrial or extra tempestrial cryptoterrestrials. Holy cow, this is a mouthful for me. I'm an ex-chef. Okay, I'm not used to these big words here.
There's a lot of
Extraterrestrial.
yeah,
This
there's
is
a
a
lot of
lot. This is for smart people. Okay.
terrestrials in there
Yeah,
right in a row. I didn't
terrestrial.
realize that until someone
Yeah.
pointed it out in an article. I was like, yeah, we could have spaced those a little better, maybe. That's a mouthful.
Oh,
You get
it's
used to
fun.
saying all these and you don't even really think
Oh,
about it. Just it rolls off the
wow.
brain and tongue. But yeah, no,
For
that
you,
one, yeah,
for
that one
you,
could
it
have been
does.
broken up for sure.
No, it's fine. In fact, it sounds good when you nail it. You're like, I'm smart. Okay, extraterrestrial aliens or our intertemporal descendants who arrived on Earth from elsewhere in the cosmos or from the human future, respectively, and concealed themselves in stealth. This, I think, is just the idea of, am I, if I'm summing this up correctly, to sort of steelman this back to you, it's just future humans, right? Us from the past
Or
here, or what,
extraterrestrials, yeah, or
or
extraterrestrials,
extraterrestrials
and
from,
and
or the
or
future,
right,
right?
or the
Future or
future.
past.
Yeah, and this is a big part of why I was brought in to work on some of these papers and others too. We're actually working with a group of really interesting academics from the UK and here in the US and Brazil, and a
Oh
very
wow.
well-known journalist too for a well-respected international publication on other papers that go beyond this question and the theory and get into more of the perception aspects of UFOs, how we understand them in various demographic groups and different circles. So, but we're doing a lot of other things. This one's captured the attention of the public in the meantime, which again is great. But my research over the last 15 years, since I started writing my first book in 2012, is about the extra tempestrial model. That what if they're us from the future coming back through time? As a biological anthropologist, I look a lot at evolutionary trends in our anatomy across human evolution, going about 6 to 8 million years ago. And then it also, as I mentioned previously, ties into how they could jump over and take that technology and become crypto-terrestrial and live amongst us and things like that. But I've always said from the beginning that this time travel intertemporal model does not explain all of the variation in the phenomenon. And there's likely a lot going on. And that's part of what we were trying to do in this paper, is capture some of that variation in the theoretical context and also include within that the extraterrestrial idea that they're already more advanced because of their own evolution, and where they are in that process, they come into to Earth in the past and sequester themselves until we're at a point where they can come out publicly and acknowledge their presence and their long history and prehistory on this planet. So again, I think the crypto-terrestrial, intertemporal, extratempestrial, there's a lot of overlap or potential overlap in those, and that's what
Yeah.
number 3 here was trying to advocate for.
No, to me, it's my, I don't know, the theory I like the most about the phenomena. It could be, when people, what do you think it is? I love that idea. I've always thought that. I think a lot of people have had that thought of, oh, well, we evolved, got bigger heads and used our bodies
Mhm.
less, and so that's why we looked at, whatever that whole concept.
Yeah.
So
No, you're
so it
right. A
could be
lot of
us,
people
right?
have. Since my first book came out in 2019, I try to acknowledge in my second book, in the first chapter, all of the people I could find who have written about this or advocated for this in various capacities. It's shown in films. There's little bits
Yeah,
about it everywhere. So I was trying to sort of bring all that in and show just how much there's this evolving notion that seems to be ramping up right now, um, probably because it's starting to feel intuitive, maybe. I don't know.
that's cool. Oh man, I you know, what about like the okay, let's assume that's what it is. What about the effect on the timeline? I mean, what does that infer now? Now, what are we talking about, right? Like their effect on our timeline? Are there multiple timelines? Like, you know what I mean? Like, should we even be trying to interact with them? Is that going to screw that up for us, right? Do we just need to sit back and butterfly effect stuff? I don't know. Or does that even matter at that point? Like, if we are to consider it a real possibility, shouldn't we then adjust for it? Because what if we don't
Yeah.
consider it and we're wrong?
Well, I think by the time we start doing it, we will have a very clear understanding of what time is, how space time works, how interacting with the past could affect or could not affect aspects of the future, or we wouldn't be doing it in the first place. I don't think we could even get to that point without sorting out those details ahead of time, especially if we're building machines that allow us to do this. Um,
Yes.
I touch on it a lot in all three of my books, actually, especially the first one, because I had to lay a foundation for this idea. And a big part of that is time and how we understand time currently, even if it's inadequate for how we'll eventually understand it. And I largely focused on the block universe model. And rather than getting into that, because it's one of few things I just am really sick of talking about because I've had to so much from the beginning. I'll give the cliff notes and then give a great resource if people want to learn more about it. But it's the basic idea that all things in the universe, all moments, are already there. They exist as one massive four-dimensional block. So as you move around within that block, you're not changing anything. You're just creating these linkages and these interactions. But when you come home, it's not like that butterfly effect. Everybody doesn't have porcupine heads or something like that. Everything's the same because everything you did in the past is what you were always going to do in it. And therefore, you just went and fulfilled how that moment was structured, essentially. And I recommend people read a very easily understood paper by Dr. Christy Miller, University of Sydney in Australia. Very succinct, explains all of this very well and why we don't have to worry about changing the future in the block universe. However, there is also the multiverse, there's the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, and all of these questions are important to consider. And I do bring those in more in my second book, especially with regard to the nuclear issue and how and potentially why UFOs are seen around nuclear bases so much. Are they trying to prevent something? Are they trying to make sure they can prevent something? Are they trying to warn us about something subtly that we can then go on to protect ourselves from? They already know the outcome if it is the block universe. So it's important to consider that versus the
Wow.
multiverse where there could be branching timelines. There's one in which we did nuke ourselves, there's one in which we didn't. That was basically the premise for my comedic satirical fiction science fiction book, the third one, and then some fun scenarios that play out as they go back deep into the past and try to avert this nuclear Armageddon. So it's certainly important to consider. It's been a running theme through all of these, but unfortunately, we don't understand time well enough to say for sure. We know it's emergent. We know it's emerging from something more fundamental in the universe. We just don't know what that is yet.